I was in and out of 12-step rooms for like 15 years, and it took me that long plus some to realize, oh, there's like two phases of addiction recovery. One is the deep clean phase where you're really digging deep and getting rid of a lifetime of things that you've built up. All of these fears, all of these resentments, selfish thinking, dishonesty, all of those things totally run amok until we're just kind of a little bit of a hot mess. You're doing a really deep cleaning there and just kind of realizing like, whoa, my life is a little bit of a mess. And then from there, you have what's called like the daily maintenance phase, where it's like this daily pickup time where you're just kind of checking in every day to make sure you're not falling victim again to those ways of thinking, because it's those ways of thinking that got you where you were in the first place. And so you kind of do a really dramatic overhaul, but then you also learn this skill of daily pickup, which is super important. So I'll compare it to a hoarder. If you wanted to do an intervention for a hoarder, the first thing you would do is you'd show up with a box of big black trash bags and you just start collecting garbage and throwing it away into the big dumpster. Well, that's phase one, because even though if you're going to work day and night until that house is beautiful and clean, the floors are sparkling, you can finally see the floor, that's still just the first phase, because the hoarder is going to be who's living there from now on. In order for the house to stay clean and not get reaccumulated and all of that garbage, that person really has to learn the skill of daily pickup, to clean up after themselves after lunch, to make their bed, to put trash in their garbage can, not to, collect too many things on the counter. That is a totally different skill than going in and doing a deep and desperate clean. And so with addiction recovery, it takes both of those. It takes that step of that courage to be able to look at yourself very honestly and be like, man, this thing is a hot mess and I really have a lot of work to do here, and being willing to, roll up your sleeves and get in and do the work. But then also that daily practice of how do you stay on the lookout for those things, those ways of thinking and those attitudes that got you where you used to be in the first place. And so it's so important to look at that. Now, my belief, which probably is a little bit of an unpopular belief, is that you don't have to necessarily start with that deep clean phase. There's definitely a benefit to doing that. But I know for me, I was stuck for over a decade because I couldn't get through that first part. That deep clean, that inventory, we were kind of looking at your whole life. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and that's a totally different video. But for me, it was very, very helpful to learn the benefit of what are those daily practices I can do to live in a better way. And I don't mean managing an addiction from day to day, but managing the components that created the addiction in the first place, that pain, the fear, the resentment, the selfishness, dishonesty, all of those things that accumulate that put us in a place where we're kind of trying to escape it, and so we're running into compulsive behaviors. And so being able to learn those skills at the front end and being able to practice them and immediately to receive some benefits from those, it really can help build your motivation to keep going and to build on that practice, and to be like, well, if this is how good it feels to do a little bit, how good is it going to feel to do a lot? And so for me, I just really believe that even though the deep clean phase is important, the order is not necessary. It doesn't have to be deep clean first and then the daily maintenance. You can ease your way into recovery practices by starting with those daily pickup practices. And so yeah, if you want to hear more about that, feel free to sign up for my newsletter. It's at liberatedbylight.com. I send a newsletter out every week where I go into these principles a little bit more deeply. But anyway, thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.